Hi, Mom.
Hi,
Happy Valentine's Day. It's coming up.
and to you.
Yes, let's make a toast to love.
Yes,
Well, tonight we have a selection of rosé wines from Reif Estate Winery in Niagara. I have three of them with me. I don't mean to brag, but I'll show you those later. But I love rosé. I love what I'm drinking right now. What do we? Can you make a toast?
I'm going to make a toast.
Yeah.
There's only one happiness in this life, to love and be loved. And when your happiness is someone else's happiness, that's love. Let's
I'll drink
to that.
I'll drink to that. I also want to drink to the fact that I raced back to Stratford and just got here off the highway into my DIY studio. I will drink to that.
Yes.
So, can you tell me what's new in the dining scene, of the restaurant scene in Toronto?
Well, I think that right now, because of the political scene,
Yes.
everything is in a state of flux. Nobody knows if they should stay or they should go. Nobody knows what is going to happen tomorrow to costs and prices and menus and supplies of food. I think everyone is kind of on tenterhooks, waiting to make decisions. I think everyone has a kind of a semi-demi plan that what if this and what if that. So I'm with them. I don't know anything for sure.
If I have any aluminum cutlery, I'm going to sell it on eBay. Yeah. Yeah, nobody knows. There's a lot of anxiety because of it. It's that lack of knowing, that uncertainty that makes people need this. Well, I want to tell you an interesting trend in travel. There is something called Globe Trender, and Globe Trender has forecasted a significant increase in independent travel among women, assessing that 71% of solo travelers are women, 47% of whom are adapting to life changes, including divorce, widowhood, raising families. This demographic is called Wander Women, and they are booking solo travel and travel with their BFFs. They have time and money. They're seeking enjoyment, out-of-the-box experiences now. Could that be you?
It is me.
Yes.
And I prefer actually to travel alone, because if I'm traveling with someone, I'm the kind of person who says, what would you like to do? Like,
Yes.
I want the other person to feel comfortable and happy and enjoy with me. And then they don't always come through with the same kind of enthusiasm that I do. And I find myself having to accommodate and change plans. But if I'm by myself, I'm free to be me.
Yeah. Well, you've gone by yourself on cruises.
Oh, cruises, I've traveled all over by myself. I traveled to many countries by myself. Italy, Israel, not the US by myself, no. But I think if you are sincere when you speak to people, they're delighted to show you and direct you and help you and buy you a coffee.
Yeah. No, I think it's a different time from when I first started traveling. You would want to travel with a group because it might not have been safe. I somehow feel with all the uncertainty and unsafe areas in the world, somehow it just feels like a safer time. If you have, in particular in this demographic with the disposable income, to travel in a certain way, I feel that it is a safe time to go right now, despite all the chaos in the world.
Well, for women, they have to just make sure that they're watching their belongings. no swinging a bag over your shoulder, because you'll look down and it'll be gone.
Yes. Yes. Well, there's one woman that we have as a guest on our show tonight, and I'm very excited to introduce her to you. From the heart of Niagara, just back from a trip of her own to Japan, Andrea Kaiser. And I would say about Andrea, if this show was called Comedians in Cars Getting Wine, the bottle I would choose to represent Andrea would be a sparkling rosé. A rosé is adaptable, versatile, pairs well with everything, every occasion. A sparkling rosé is effervescent, bright, approachable, elegant, and fun. These are all words that I would use to describe Andrea Kaiser, who has grown up in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Her father is the reason we even know Niagara-on-the-Lake. Carl Kaiser, along with Donald Zeraldo, launched the wine industry in Canada 50 years ago and put Canadian wines on the map internationally. And Andrea has continued this tradition, evolving it, making it ever more refined. And she works with Reif Estate Winery to craft beautiful wines. And as a community caring person, she's also regional counselor in Niagara-on-the-Lake. So I'm thrilled to be enjoying her wine and to have her on the show with us now.
And I am drinking Dre's Rosato. And it's made from Dornfelder grapes. It's an Italian style, darker in color. It tastes like raspberries and grapes and all the good stuff. I've been sipping it all along.
And what I'm drinking is, it's complicated. So cheers to you.
Thank you so for the lovely, lovely, lovely introduction. If I had to choose a wine that I would want to be described as, it definitely would be a sparkling rosé.
Okay, good. So I chose right.
You made my evening, yes.
I have to tell you something funny about this wine. I went to the LCBO this morning, and I got there right at 10 a.m. this morning, right when they open. So there were people there to help me. I said, I'm looking for a specific rosé. It's by Reif Estate Winery. And I was asked what it's called. So I said, it's complicated. And then, we're looking around and the guy says, can you tell me the name of the winery? And I said, yes. I said, it's Reif Estate Winery. And he said, can you not tell me the name of the wine? And I said, I did. It's complicated. And he said, well, just try me. And this turned into an Abbott and Costello thing. I said, no. The name of the wine it's complicated. So,
oh my goodness. That would make yeah, you know what? It's a brand new wine out at Reif Estate, and it would bring the biggest smile to our new winemaker. So Adam, I know you've met, and Sarah, Roberto Di Domenico, who's been a winemaker at Reif for 30 years. He just retired. And this new rosé is actually the very first wine of our brand new winemaker, Eric Pearson. And he would get a real kick out of that conversation. He's such an energetic, positive person. We've been having lots of fun. He's been at the winery now for about a year. And so this is his very first release of his wine that sort of showcases his style and his personality, to be honest. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. And I remember when we put the submission in for the LCBO to say, hey, you know what, would you like to buy a little bit of this new rosé? The buyer, Sean at the LCBO, called me and he said, Andrea, I've got the perfect time to release this wine. I'm releasing it for Valentine's Day. I was just in stitches. I said,
no, it's a perfect idea for Valentine's Day because it's never not complicated.
Exactly. So we had such a little chuckle about that. So it's Eric's pretty excited to have his first own sort of wine from Reif that's been released under the It's Complicated label, and it's kind of like a originally the name actually landed on it's complicated because they originally wanted to call it a rosé because it was the idea, the complexity, sort of the style of the wine was the guys in the cellar came together to come up with the blend and the style, and so they desperately wanted to call it a rosé, but that name was already taken. So
Oh.
We started looking around for different names, and then it became a long, drawn conversation, and finally we just settled on It's Complicated.
Mhm.
So, a lot of fun.
I want to ask you about the color, because it's a very different color than, I mean, it's more of a Provence style.
Yes, yes.
It's lighter than what my mom is drinking, and certainly
Mhm.
lighter than what you're drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is it's a meritage blend actually, which is kind of interesting.
Mhm.
The It's Complicated rosé. So that means it's like a Bordeaux style varietals, which we know meritage is Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc. So those are very wonderful grapes together, and there was just a little bit of skin contact because Eric was looking for sort of some depth and complexity, but he wanted it to be something fresh and easy to drink. Obviously for with fish, summertime, but dry. So, and I think that's a common misconception about rosés. So tonight, you've got Eric's from Reif Estate. It's Complicated, which is I think about 3 to 4 grams per liter. Sara, you're having my risotto, which, as you mentioned, is an Italian style rosé in the sense that it's a bit darker in color, but it's also bone dry. And then my, it's funny that we're all drinking something different. My Brut sparkling rosé is sort of probably right in between in terms of color of the three, but again, just 2 grams per liter. So it's kind of exciting for me to see rosés coming out of their shell in terms of being wines that are taken a little more seriously, I guess, for food pairings. Not necessarily that they have to be boring wines, but a lot of people are really pleasantly surprised when they try all of these 3 rosés, because there is always the expectation that there's going to be a lot of sweetness. And as you know, Sara, with food pairing, that can be kind of a little problematic. And if the wine becomes too cloying over with the food, the fresher, brighter acidity wines tend to perform well in food pairing. So that's kind of the one thing all the 3 wines do have in common.
But I would think also with a rosé, people think about fish or chicken or turkey, but I have had wonderful pairings of rosé with steak, because when you're having a robust, juicy steak, you don't want something that's high alcohol, that's not going to pair well with high spice. So something like a rosé has the right kind of acidity to balance with the salt of a steak. And that's what I like. I think rosé goes with everything. And I always think, when in doubt, choose rosé.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. You really can't go wrong, and you can kind of please the sort of whole table, especially if you are going with a darker rosé. And I mean, we all know that the Provence style has been trending right now, but there has been a lot of talk about sort of the range of rosés and the styles, and people being more open to it, which is really exciting for me. And so then it does give you that little bit more breadth and depth with food pairings. So there is a little trend now towards the darker rosé, which again I find pretty exciting myself, because I do enjoy something that's got a little bit more flavor and complexity to it. But as you'll notice with all of my wines, what's really important to me is that they are fruit forward. And it's interesting even to think about the trends recently with wines. You mentioned sort of the freshness. There is sort of, people are becoming more confident to drink wines that are, I don't want to say simple, but that are maybe not as complicated, in the sense that it doesn't always have to be a heavy, like you were talking about, like a big heavy red with high alcohol. Like you can enjoy super fresh, very clean wines, and they're a little less alcohol, and they're going to always pair well with food. And there is a little bit of a movement away from sort of the heavier bodied hot climate wines, and people are starting to discover and really enjoy cool climate wines. I mean, they've been around for a while, Germany, Austria, etc. But I think that's one of the things that we obviously do very well in Canada.
Well, I think you have to do less work with the cool climate wines, less spraying, less everything.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I have your Brut right here.
Excellent.
And what my mom pointed out to me earlier was this little
Yes.
rose.
Yes. So that's the little Drea sparkle, the little Drea touch. So, I'm serious about food and wine in the sense that I always enjoy great food and great wines, but I also sometimes, um, you know, it's funny growing up in the wine business and people. I have, of course, my dad above my shoulder here. You've got your
Yeah, I
dad,
see him.
Adam. People always assume that I'm sort of this heavy duty wine person and I always need to talk about every detail and crunch into it. You're a sommelier. But at the end of the day, wine should be enjoyed.
That I also have the Drea's Cuvée Rosé, and there's this little thingy on it.
Mhm. Yes, that's
Rose.
the special Drea personal touch. Certainly wine. It is an expression of joy for me. And while, I am a serious wine person about great food, great wine, at the end of the day, it's to be enjoyed and with great people. And so for me, I wanted to express a little bit of joy around this particular wine. And the roses specifically are sort of a memory representative of the roses that my dad used to grow. And they're seen as sort of the guardians of the vineyard.
And he's right behind you there.
He is. That's right. Yes, just like your dad. So,
Just over your shoulder.
yeah. So just a little bit of the Drea love. So these are all hand applied,
Mhm.
hand painted, and there are days when I regret the decision, but when I look at it, it brings me joy, and so I hope that that brings other people joy as well.
And I wanted to ask you about your tarot line, which I think is
Mhm.
really cool. Your brother, whom I've never met, is a star. All his designs for various wineries are always so interesting. But
Yeah.
this tarot line, this one is called Fortune.
Yeah.
Ride the wheel of fortune and learn to embrace change. With it comes great enchantments. With it comes great enchantments. With just a kiss of color, our charming 2023 rosé. And then, I mean, I used to have a tarot deck, and so
Okay.
this really interests me. Your whole line. I've enjoyed your Magician, which I think
Yeah.
is a Shiraz.
Yes. Pinot Shiraz, kind of an unusual blend. And that was like a sort of an exploratory project where we had just started doing a Passamento style wines. And at Reif Estate, we were doing a lot of research around drying the grapes and getting some more intensity and complexity to the wines. And also at a time when Reif has been making premium quality VQA wines for 30 years, 35 grape growing, 13 generation winemaker, and all that good stuff, does sort of lend into a very traditional brand. And so the tarot card was really about the guys having a little bit of fun in the cellar and doing things a little differently. And it did start with the Magician in terms of that Appassimento style. And then when we approached the labels, we wanted to bring something a little bit sort of fresher, younger, a little bit more contemporary. And so, as you mentioned, my brother, he designs all of the Reif labels. And so that was one of the labels that he worked on when we launched the collection. And it's got a few wines, the stars, the fortune, all the different cards from the tarot collection. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, Mom, next time we go to Niagara, we have to go to Reif because
Yeah.
they have what I like is that you're one of the older wineries, but you're constantly innovating. So you
Exactly.
have your
Mm.
Passamento wines where you dry the grapes in tobacco kilns. You
Yes.
have the ice wine. You have you're like on the vanguard of each new trend, new innovation, and
Mhm.
also you have your own line, which I think is really cool.
Yes.
Well, it must be lovely in Niagara-on-the-Lake right now. The snow covering the vineyards and the grapevines, waiting for spring, hibernating.
Yes.
They say, because the groundhog saw his shadow, they
Oh.
no, did not
Okay.
see his shadow, that it will be an early spring. So
Oh.
is that a good thing or for wine production or a bad thing? An
That's
early spring.
that's an awesome question. And it's funny because people would think, oh, it's probably better if it's a warmer winter, but it's the snow. First of all, is an insulator, so that's a great thing for us when we do see snow. And when the temperatures go, as long as they're not going below like minus 22, minus 23, the hibernation of the shutdown of the vine is really important and actually good for the vine because it stops doing and it just kind of shuts down for the winter. And so we like it when it stays kind of solid and controlled, a nice cold winter. It's when we see a lot of fluctuations in temperatures. For example, in 2002, we had a really short harvest because what happened was it warmed up, extreme temperatures, and then it got cold. So all of the rain froze around the base of the vines and became ice. And so that's when things start to get problematic. It's when you see fluctuations. And, to your question about the spring, absolutely, an early spring is going to be great because that's going to give us a longer growing season. But if we see a spike, for example, or sorry, I should say a dip in temperatures after the blooming has started, then that can cause issues because of bud damage. So it's really about sort of stable climate, and climate change has given us a lot of sort of different fluctuating. So we really do look for like the more stable, but an earlier spring is always good for nice ripe fruit. We get some more growing degree days.
Well, thanks to the groundhog.
What do you have? Do you have anything new coming out this season that we should look forward to?
Well, we have, as you know, the It's Complicated just came out at the LCBO as a special release for Valentine's. And then I'm super excited. My risotto, which Sarah's enjoying, will be coming out at the LCBO for the first time. A small limited release in some of Toronto LCBOs, Ottawa, a little bit of London area. And then I just got an order for my Cabernet Franc, which I'm super excited about. They've ordered for a May release. So lots of good things happening. And then I've always kind of got little things in the works. Just to go back to your original comment talking about women traveling alone, it was interesting to hear you talk about that, because I did just get back from Japan, and this was the first time I had traveled alone on such a big trip, and Sarah, what you talked about really resonated with me, that I realized, if you just take a minute and talk to people, it's amazing how welcoming people are, how ready they are to assist you. And it was it's the first few times, I think it's a little nerve-wracking, but really exciting to be able to kind of do that and enjoy. And when I was abroad, I was working with Reif's importer into Japan, where we export to, featuring ice wine, and it got me thinking about sparkling ice wine. So we'll see.
Well, sparkling sake has become quite a popular trend.
That's
so
cool.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, that's so fun.
When you travel alone, make sure you wear a Canada pin.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
You don't want to be mistaken for an American.
Fair enough.
Well, not necessarily. But I was going to say, I worked at Van Expo in Tokyo for Enniskillen. And this was in, I think it was in 2000. Might have been in 2000. And everyone was interested in ice wine because it was still relatively new. It was the easiest interpreting job I ever had, because no one was interested in what I had to say. They just wanted to drink.
Nice. Which
was great.
That made the job a little easier. Yes.
Oh yeah.
No. It's incredible, and it's when I was there and I saw all the ice wines and all the Canadian wines. Obviously, a proud moment for me as the daughter of Carl Kaiser. Just to see the reach of what he and Donald did in pioneering is quite extraordinary, and just a really, really special for me to see that and to experience that.
How receptive are international wine buyers to Canadian wines like yours?
Well, there is ice wine for sure. As we all know, it's really strong export markets because, there's only a few countries that produce it. And now with climate change, pretty much Canada's about it. And I think what, really, as you know, in I think it was 91, when the 1989 Enniskillen Ice Wine won Grand Prix d'Honneur at Van Expo that year in Paris, it really put Canadian wines on the map. But in some ways, it did sort of like hinder us a little bit in terms of global recognition for table wines, because then everyone always just thought ice wine, that's what they make in Canada. And this image of winters, like how on earth could they actually make table wine? So that's still even to today, can be a little bit of a struggle because we still carry that legacy of the ice wine, which is amazing. But obviously, we want people to explore table wines as well. Was really fun. We went to this one restaurant that you're going to have to help me, Adam. Is it tonkatsu when it's like pork?
Yeah, and the
like
pork
yeah.
is probably from Canada.
Yeah, Ontario.
Most of the pork imported from into Japan is from Canada.
Yes, and it was so cool. They specialized in tonkatsu, and the menu was all pork from Ontario and only Ontario wines, which was extraordinary. And table wines, like not ice wine. So that was a real highlight. That was really cool.
Well, that's amazing because they've got wine from Niagara and pork from Perth County, where I am right now. This is Stratford is the home of the National Pork Congress.
Yeah, it was really, really special. Yeah,
that's very cool.
I wanted to ask you something, woman to woman.
Okay.
Did I leave?
No.
Okay.
You were born and bred into the wine industry via your father, and yet you did many things before you settled in and found your calling.
Yes.
Restaurateur, sommelier, politician, writer, teacher, marketer, and you're director of marketing at Reif Winery. Mm-hmm. And in 2019, you launched your own wine. And I understand that the name Drea is what your father used to call you. And so you named, that's your label.
Yes.
But what do you think he would say to you today?
It's funny for those of you who knew him, and I know you both did. Yes. He was a very quiet man, often of very few words. And it wasn't till, after we lost him, and that really was what perpetuated my realization that we had to keep, like, as a family, his legacy alive. And that's why I launched the wine brand. I had sort of been thinking about it for a while. But he was really quiet. And it was kind of like I realized after that, the love and sort of support and what he thought about all of us kids was through his actions. Like, he didn't necessarily verbalize it, but, his actions towards us and the way he looked after us was so extraordinary. And, I didn't realize, I think for all three of us, it was a big, big boots to fill. But he never expected us to do anything specific. He just wanted us to follow what we wanted to do and be happy. Mm-hmm. And so, I think we all three of us, looking at my list of things that I've done in my life, how do I fill those boots of, like, Carl Kaiser, pioneer of Canadian winemaking? Like, how do I top that?
Yeah.
And so, I also love to learn, and but I think subconsciously that pressure was kind of there with me to be like a success, but he never put the pressure on me. And I remember once running into an old friend of ours, Albert Seeger, who was a grower here in Niagara, and he said, "Oh my gosh, your dad bragged about you all the time." I was like, "What? He did? Like, how come he didn't tell? No one told me that." So. It's funny how we do that to ourselves. And I'm just so grateful to be able to tell the stories about him and to keep those memories alive. Like, I just, it's, I mean, I think, Adam, you probably feel the same about your dad, that it's just, it's so extraordinary that you want to celebrate it. And I just feel really grateful for that.
Well, so do you feel that you have followed your destiny, that it was bred in the bone, lying there waiting to be released all the time?
Yeah, and I think it was really like most kids, I guess, who think, oh, I just want to go out and make it on my own and do my own thing. And all of us, kind of went and did our own. My brother became a designer. My sister at that time, she went to Chicago when we were younger. I went, we bought the restaurant. I did the restaurant for 10 years. But yeah, it's kind of like one of those things that you just realize, like, what was right in front of you the whole time. Yeah. And you didn't realize. And so when I started the journey, I was like, wow, why did it take me so long to realize that this was kind of what I should be doing?
I wonder about that.
Home.
Yeah. And it does.
You had to follow the yellow brick road.
Yes, I did. And then what's so amazing about it is that it does feel like home. Like it doesn't feel like work. Like it's just me, and it just makes me happy. I work, whatever, 6, 7 days a week, but it doesn't feel like work. It's my life, and that's what's really special about it. So thank you for asking. It's an interesting journey I've taken, and it's very funny because I have this vision of myself as never being successful. So it's like,
What?
one day,
Well,
I think that
I gotta
if I could say, I think everybody, one of the signature experiences in Niagara-on-the-Lake is going to Reif Estate, sitting at that beautiful counter,
Oh yeah,
having
that's
a charcuterie board, having some cheese, and sampling different wines.
yes,
That's, because there is such a range and it is so beautiful there. And you've got such flavor forward, fruit forward wines. They don't taste like oak trees. There's
yes.
always a refined winemaker doing something interesting and different at Reif Estates.
Mhm.
well, here's to you, Andrea.
Oh, thank you.
Here's
Thank
to
you.
you.
We're so good to see you.
You too. Thank you so much. It's so great to see you too.
Well, Mom,
Yes.
now, you know what we forgot to do?
What?
We have to, I think it's time for Sarah Says.
Oh, well, let the cameras roll.
Let's roll it.
Caviar is a most luxurious culinary indulgence. We serve chilled caviar with smoked sturgeon, with blinis, with a nice shot of nice Polish vodka. But we don't use a metal spoon because a metal spoon can impart a metallic taste to the caviar. So we use mother of pearl. It's very important. But the most sensuous way to serve caviar is to put a spoonful on the back of your hand between your forefinger and thumb, and just scoop it up with your lips, not your teeth. Let it rest for a moment before you do that to impart the full flavor from the warmth of your hand. But if you really want to raise the temperature, I suggest you offer it to the one you love.
Yes.
That's the way to do it.
Well, I have some caviar to nibble on here with my rosé.
And how apropos, because our next guest is, I believe, the king of caviar. I just drank a little too much wine too quickly. Just give me a moment. But one of the most interesting and special Canadians that I know is Cornel Ceapa, who from the mountains of Romania to the shores of New Brunswick has carved a path towards sustainability. And what he and his wife, Dorina, have brought to Canada is that they have revived the sturgeon industry, but also they have created this world-class Canadian caviar. They put Canada on the map at a time when all the other caviar industries around the world, from Iran to Russia, have been depleted. There's no more wild sturgeon caviar in the world outside of Canada. And the only reason we still have it in Canada is because of Cornel Ceapa and Dorina Ceapa, who, armed with his PhD and his passion, his industriousness and entrepreneurialism, has been marketing this across Canada and around the world. And I think he is one of the most interesting aquaculturalists and conservation farmers that we have. And he is not only to be celebrated, but we have wine, we have caviar, and we have Cornel Ceapa here from New Brunswick. And I'm thrilled that we have the opportunity to talk with him now.
Hello, Adam. Hello, Sara. I'm so excited to be here, hailing from St. John, New Brunswick, where I am now under a little bit of a snowstorm outside, but it's good to be here.
Well, hello, Cornel. It's nice to see you again. When was it? Last spring that I visited with you and your wife, Dorina, at the Restaurants Canada show, and your booth Acadian sturgeon was one of the most popular in the whole place. Would you agree that caviar is becoming more and more common in restaurants now and more common on our own menus?
It does. It does. Unfortunately, we still have a lot to go, in my opinion. I think caviar, it's a little bit in a darker spot because the way we treat the fish, it's sad that first we finished all the wild pretty much, except in Canada. That is something that for me as a person who really loves sturgeon, it's sad. And also even the farmed caviar, it's not really farmed for quality, it's farmed a lot for money. So we humans, I think we go into that issue, when it gets very interesting, that everybody thinks that let's do it, let's make more money. For me, it's really a question of passion. That's why we have the last wild caviar in the world. And when we farm the sturgeon, we farm it to the level of the wild. So that's why we have wild and farm side by side, and striving to do the same quality, if not better, from the wild.
Well, I've been to your hatchery in Carter's Point, and I found it fascinating. I brought my son there, and each area had a different size fish, because I think they have to be at least 10 years old before you can produce caviar from them, right?
Yes. It's not an easy business. It's probably one of the hardest business in the world. And of course, it is a question of when you produce food, any kind of food, we need to strive to do quality, not quantity, and that's what we are doing. We compare wild and farm, and I do believe that we are doing it well. We've been doing this for 20 years. We have less than a month to when March the 2nd, 2005, we started this business. And we are not there yet, but we see the light. We are really happy, and we feel more confident that this is it. We are doing something very, very special, very, very unique in the world. And lately we've been launching, and that's something that I'll invite you, Sara, to come to our opening, because the fall of this year, we are going to open a big, like a tourist building, similar to what wineries have, like a tasting building.
Where?
And that's where we are going to do this education side by side, wild and farm. It's going to be an attraction. It's going to be like a tourism anchor here in New Brunswick, because we believe that producing food without educating people about how it's made, where it's made, why it's sustainable, and so on, it can be just a story on paper,
Yeah.
But when people see it, that's when we realize that this is real. This can be done.
Well, I want to say that, first of all, March 2nd is an auspicious day, because that's my dad's birthday.
Amazing. When I met the first time Sara, I remember, and she told me that when she was younger, because she's young now as well, in spirit. She was working a little bit of caviar and wrote cookbooks and things like that about caviar. So sometimes you wonder if things don't happen for a reason. The fact that we met, and you guys are helping me spread the word about Canadian sturgeon and caviar. Maybe this is something that is not it's not completely or hazard. There is a reason why
it's karma.
But
I recall when you were first starting to sell your products in Toronto, I don't remember how we met. I don't remember who introduced us.
I don't know either. I know that we had a couple of dinners together at Oyster Boy and in another restaurant.
Yeah, maybe there. I don't know. But I was so impressed with your caviar, and I introduced you to some high-end restaurants in the city, and your product and your brand began to appear on menus, now on Michelin star menus, and that's for a reason. That's because it's a good product. So I was at the Chateau Frontenac in Quebec City, for example, and their restaurant is out of this world. And they serve a caviar service, and it's yours. And
of course, yes.
An extravagant presentation with the fruits and the vegetables and all. I was so excited I took a picture. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We love what we do. We really walk the talk, so to speak. And again, the most unique caviar in the world. And the way we do it, I do believe that we are blessed to be able to do it in here in New Brunswick, in an environment that is pristine, that is clean, and species that we raise are native. They are from us here. Again, it is a blessing. It is really.
But you mentioned the importance of education to go along with it. When I was a kid, I never have tried caviar, but I came to New Brunswick a few years ago with my son, who at the time was 8, and you introduced him to caviar, and I thought, he's not going to like that. Don't waste your time. You gave him such an education that, unfortunately for me, he loved it. And I mean, I remember coming home afterwards and saying, I'm sorry, son, we won't be able to put caviar on your scrambled eggs this morning. But you introduced him to the 3 different kinds of caviar that you have. And I think it's so true that the education and the context, rather than just trying it without context, is so important. And that's a major aspect of what you do. You have the master class, you have the 2-day course, you have so many different programs that are as delicious and enriching as they are educational.
Yeah, it's a little bit, when you think about, we all talk about exporting and shipping products all over the world and everything. But nowadays we are more and more cautious about, our carbon footprint and everything. And I believe strongly that it's nice to have some products that are unique to the area where they are produced and keep them local. Because when you bring people in to experience your product, the benefit for the area is like tenfold. The people who come to visit, to try your product, to experience your how you farm sturgeon and caviar, for example, they will stay in a hotel, they will go to visit other restaurants, other businesses around. So it is actually a benefit. We all think this globalization, is good for business people. But when you do it, tourism actually spreads a little bit the wealth to everybody, because everybody benefits. There is a local employment, there is, hotels, there is other restaurants, there are tour guides, and so on. So I do believe that, especially in those crazy times that we are living, it's important, more and more important for Canada to bring people in, to show them how we are different, how we are sustainable. I was listening to your previous guest about, wines, and Canada has amazing wines. I'm using, I do tours, I do tasting for a lot of American people who come and visit. And I tell them, I said, I'm a professional caviar maker, and I'm a dilettante and learning sommelier, because I present a lot of local wines. And I agree that Canada has amazing, especially red and rosés wines, and we need to sell them. We need to introduce them. We need to show people how it's made. We need to, and the fact that we have a cooler climate is actually great, because it does make everything more natural. When you keep everything like warm and nice out of this harsher climate, I think come amazing product. Because
and also as
climate
is changing, there are more emerging wine regions. So for example, New Brunswick is becoming a wine region. I visited a winery there, but also Nova Scotia. You've got some of the most wonderful sparkling wines in the world. Benjamin Bridge has their Nova 7, which is, I think, my favorite. And all of that pairs with caviar.
Of course.
Perfectly.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's a lot of the red wines, the rosés. I'm using a Brut Nature Rosé from Benjamin Bridge in my tasting menu. I'm using actually from Niagara Riesling Rosé, which all the people are, wow, Riesling
Rosé.
Riesling, not Riesling Rosé, sorry, Riesling Bubbly, Riesling Sparkling.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I apologize. Sparkling, not a Rosé. I had my Rosé in my head. But Riesling Sparkling, which is, again, the Riesling in Germany, because the climate change becomes sweeter now because the climate is warmer, But Canada has really like a Brut sparkling Riesling, which everybody is like, wow, this is unbelievable. And it works really well with our sturgeon ceviche, for example, So, yeah, it's a thing you'll hear more and more in the tourism about us, because we believe it. Again, it is almost like closing the circle. I do believe that this a producer without explaining. We are the best to explain to customer how it's made, what is made, and everything, and why we do it differently. And we need that. Most of the business, I think, the future of the tourism is going to be this learning, educational tourism about.
But also the sustainability. Like we all know Maine or Massachusetts for lobster.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any more lobster.
Yeah.
But if you go to New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, there are more sustainable fisheries and hatcheries, and more education, more diversity in what they're doing with them. So, for example, I have a menu of yours in front of me right now, and for people who just think of caviar as being on its own, I'm looking at this. You have miso marinated wild sturgeon, birch syrup marinated farm sturgeon, along with lemon seared wagyu. You have white chocolate panna cotta with smoked sturgeon ice cream and caviar. I mean, that is totally outside the box. So
I'll be there tomorrow.
Please come. Please come.
At 7.
We have an amazing chef, a really chef who is in our staff, in a certified chef de cuisine, And at the end of those tours that we do for talk tours from United States, from all over the world, people are applauding. They ask him to sign menus and everything, and it's like you feel like people are happy, because I do believe food has lost a little bit the wow, by having this industrial food, and even the seasonality of the ingredients has disappeared. We bring food from the other hemisphere. We bring bananas. We don't have an expectation or waiting. Before, when we were young, we were eating bananas only like a week or two a year, right? And you are waiting for that moment. Oh, the bananas are coming. Now everything is there, and it's very little to make us wow, to make us excited. You walk into a store, I don't think that people can get any more excited about what they see, something that they never had, for example. And that's how I position myself. I say, look, it's not we don't eat it a la louche with a big spoon, small amounts, but something special, like we did for celebrations.
The corollary of that is there are foods that I'm really not excited about. I don't ever need to eat tuna again. This is an overfished fish, and people don't think of the seasonality of fish. But one of the things that you do is you pay attention to the sleep cycles of the fish. And, fish have cycles just like any other species.
All nature,
there are times, I used to be on the board of, I think I was on some board of Ocean Wise, which is, it's so important for people to think of what time of year they're eating a certain protein, and is it appropriate to be eating it then? And, when we think of what is Canadian product, and how do we sustain that, especially at this time when there's all this concern about tariffs and buying Canadian, you have something that is quintessentially Canadian, and it's just true that Canada is a cornucopia of ingredients. So if you're in Saskatchewan, you're not going to be having caviar, you'll be having lentils. And what they're doing out there, they're making lentil beer, for example. But if you're in New Brunswick, or if you want a taste of New Brunswick, there's no truer taste of the terroir than your caviar. And I think that's a very special thing that we can all be proud of as Canadians.
We support everybody around us, and we believe in what we do. And again, wild and farm together, because wild is not enough. We are going to finish it. If we continue to take only the wild, we are going to completely finish it. So we have to be.
So what's the end goal for you? Like with sustainability, I think there is no end, but what is your objective?
My objective is to produce, again, if we finish all the wild in the world, if we only farm caviar, we'll get to a point that people who ever ate wild product are gone, and they will not know what caviar should taste like, right? How the real product tastes like. For example, if I do a sparkling wine, I would want myself to compare with the best champagne in the world, to make sure, you always, even as a person, you need a quality standard. You have people who you look up to, you have models and so on, So it's the same for me. For me, the real mantra is produce a farm, sustainable product from local species, not to bring species from other parts of the world. Everybody thinks Rosé, beluga, and whatever. Those are overfished. They are gone. And right now we farm them in bad conditions and so on. We have a natural wild population that is thriving. We can harvest from it. We have a quota. Every fish is tagged individually. You saw how we treat the fish,
Yeah.
And then when we farm them to the level of quality and we give them a good life, and they have a bad moment or a bad day, like all of us, like everybody, But because we give them a good life, they will give us very good products. And that's really my thing. I'm comparing wild and farm all the time. So I'm doing a farm product as good or better from as the wild. I was just reading a message right now from Elora Mills in Ontario. They open a beautiful caviar of farmed Acadian gold caviar, and they said, "Wow, that was amazing." So there are restaurants, like in Pearl Morizet many of the Michelin stars that are using a lot of my caviar. And I told them, I don't use it just for me, because you need to the important thing in restoration is to have a good business, to basically pay well your employees, and make people happy. So you make people happy, you take their money, everybody is happy, and they'll come back for something special. And it starts with the ingredients. Everybody says, half is service, half is the chef, like producing. Actually, it's very important to have also very good ingredients. So I do believe it's like 1/3 the ingredients, 1/3 the back of the house, 1/3 of the front of the house. All of us, we can make people happy with.
Well, you've made me very happy, because right now I have some toast. My mom baked a wonderful bread, and on this toast I have a sturgeon from you, smoked sturgeon.
Yes.
And on top of that is a little bump of caviar from you, the emerald caviar.
Yes. I do believe the emerald right now is the best. Actually, I'm out of stock of the wild because it's seasonal. We have to accept seasonality, enjoy. And I will enjoy. I will raise a glass. I will raise a glass to you, Sara, and to you, Adam. You guys been amazing friends and supporters for our small family business. We believe in what we do. We have our son who works with us. We have 11 employees right now, and they are growing. And
you have employees.
Yes.
Always have.
And your son's name is Michael, right?
Michael, yes.
Yeah. So you, Darina, and Michael, that's such a wonderful thing. I love the idea of family business. Oh yes, because I work with my mom.
Exactly. No, it is important because we do things from heart. It's not just a business. For us, it's not just a business. It's not just doing it. We do it because we believe in it. That's very, very important, And
how many restaurants do you think offer your caviar in Canada?
It's hard to say right now. It's variable, but what I noticed after the pandemic is that the restaurants who get it, they increase their use dramatically.
Wow.
Like, for example, we have restaurants like Pearl Morizet or Garde-Manger or Tanière in Quebec City. Some of the best restaurants probably in Canada, that they use like half a kilo to a kilo a week.
And in Toronto,
wow.
Oh, in Toronto, we have a lot also as well, a lot of restaurants, from Canoe to you name it. But it is, again, I tell them, you need to upsell. You need to always add it up. Don't leave money on the table. Make sure that you make people happy, and also you take care of your business, because businesses have to be sustainable. Sustainability is not just a question about wild animals. The business also has to continue to do well for their employees, for their shareholders, and so on. So I do believe we are all in the same boat, so to speak, and we need to help each other.
It used to be in a restaurant, if they had a few grains of a few little pearls of caviar, and then the price would go up on whatever it was you were eating, and you ate it and it didn't taste of anything, and you thought, what's this all about? It's because it came, I don't know, from who knows if it was even caviar.
Yeah. It's a lot of bad products out there. A lot of bad products there. You wouldn't believe. I don't want to be negative, but I tell people when I do tastings, I tell people if they ever tried caviar, and if they hesitate, I said, okay, let's draw the line. After this time that you are tasting my caviar, you remember. You'll know until the end day of your life that you tried caviar, because it's going to be memorable.
Yes.
A real caviar should be memorable, should be tasty, should be a long aftertaste, should be pleasant. It's not an acquired taste. Some people say caviar is an acquired taste. I say, yeah, bad everything is an acquired taste. You hope to get used to it and not die, you know. But the reality is that a good product, kids, you know, Asher, he was impressed. I remember you had the video of him, and he was so into it. And you taste it, you like it. I mean, kids are not, they don't have this idea of lying and putting stuff, you know. They will tell you right away, you know what.
But it has to do with the quality as well.
100%.
And the context in which he received it. But what I think is amazing from my perspective, having grown up, having an image of caviar as an aspirational indulgence from Iran or Russia, and that doesn't exist anymore. They have no more wild, it's all farmed. And that Canada, more specifically you, are the only producer of wild sturgeon caviar in the world. I think every Canadian should know this, because it's something that we should all feel proud of and that we should all support.
And again, I don't feel it's like you could feel like a black sheep. You know, why should we take it? Some people tell me, you know, why would you have? I said, why would you take anything? In nature, everything is connected in an ecosystem. You cannot say, I'm protecting this, not protecting that, not protecting this. It doesn't mean that we need to harvest equally sustainable. If we harvest something, we have to make sure that we are not detrimental to that nature balance in the ecosystem. You know, if we take the shrimp to do omega-3s, if we eat too many pills, you know, or whatever, if those are not sustainably harvested, that's going to be even worse than eating all the bluefin tuna in the ocean, because bluefin tuna is the top of the food chain, while the little shrimps are the bottom of the food chain, and that everything will crumble, you know. You have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to know about sustainability. I do believe it is a word that is misused a lot, and a lot of people kind of greenwash stuff around them. People think caviar from Russia and Iran is the best in the world, because for the last 100 years, they were the only one in the world. If you are the only one in the world for 100 years, you are the god. You know, nobody knows anything else but that thing. Canada and United States used to supply most of the caviar in the world in 1900, but they overfished it in that time, 1860 to 1900, you know. And but we have it here, and it's in a good shape, and I'm the steward, you know. I will protect it with my life, you know, and I'm sure that we do things the right way. And watch me, come and visit. You know, we are transparent. As I say, this tourist thing, it's very exciting for me, because it's going to be something like unbelievable, like unique. I have it only on papers right now. You know, I'll send you some drawings from the architects, but we are putting the foundation in beginning of April, end of May, depending on the weather. And by the fall, we'll have a $2.5 million building, amazing for like tastings and tourists and everything. Invite celebrity chefs to learn about our products and do tasting menus there and so on. So I'm very excited about
Well, that would be fantastic. And I certainly look forward to visiting.
You come anytime. And you, Sara, the same. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Cornel.
I hope you enjoyed the caviar. I hope you enjoyed the caviar.
Oh,
yes.
Absolutely. I'm enjoying it now.
Excellent.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yes. Thank you very much. Happy Valentine's Day. All the best. And I love the introduction about love. You know, I'm blessed also, me and Dorina, to be high school sweethearts. And I know that that is a blessing. That's really
well. Cheers to you both, to you and Dorina.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, what is more Valentine-y than wine and caviar and love?
Well, we've got the caviar, we've got the wine, and we've got the love.
Yes. I love you. Cheers.